Well, we have two competing narratives. One is that Israel carried out this massive retaliation strike, making use of the most advanced, military capabilities in their arsenal: F-35 fighters, 100 aircraft, targeting a number of sites preemptively. We also know that Hezbollah retaliated using low technology equipment that appeared to saturate and carve a hole or a gap in the Israeli air defense, which was then exploited by drones, which carried out a very successful attack against one of the most sensitive intelligence sites in all of Israel, Unit 8200. They're basically the equivalent of the National Security Agency of the United States. Hezbollah has said that the Israelis hit nothing. We don't know. We don't know what the battle damage assessment is. What we do know is that both sides have toned down the rhetoric at this point in time, and that it looks like the emphasis is being shifted back to Gaza for the time being. I think this is just part of the managed escalation. I think, though, if the Israeli preemption was successful, Hezbollah still demonstrated that it didn't preempt anything, that Hezbollah was able to penetrate Israel's air defense and launch a successful strike using very low technology weapons. But if the Israeli intervention was not successful, as Hezbollah is telling the truth, Israel has actually given away a lot of information. First of all, this was a major military operation, 100 aircraft, F-35s, refueling. It involves targeting. And we're talking about immediate targeting because this is a preemptive strike. So Israel's saying that they are detecting things as it's happening to try and prevent an imminent threat. I don't know what Hezbollah's intelligence capabilities are. I can tell you that if I were a Hezbollah intelligence officer, based upon what Israel did, I would be able to reconstruct or deconstruct the Israeli actions and identify the various nodes of criticality when it comes to preventing Israel from doing this again. Israel gave away a lot doing this attack, and I believe, if Hezbollah is right, accomplished little or nothing. Hezbollah claims that it didn't stop any of the rockets that were intended to be fired. They were all Katyushka rockets, very low sophistication. Israel did manage to destroy some of the launchers after they had launched their rockets, but none of Hezbollah's advanced capabilities were affected by this. So Israel gave away the farm. Israel lacks the capacity to continue this indefinitely. They will exhaust themselves militarily, they will exhaust themselves economically, and eventually they will exhaust themselves from a socio-political standpoint as Israelis with dual citizenship, with that second passport, start to flee the country because Israel is no longer a country that's livable, at least not to the lifestyle that the Israelis had hoped for by moving there. Until there's a Palestinian state, Israel will never rest in peace. And if Israel's not resting in peace, then their economy can't recover. And their economy right now is devastated, gutted, billions of dollars of losses. The Israeli society is deeply fractured now. There will be people who say we have to accept a new reality if we want to survive. There will be others who say we must double down and create a greater Israel and eliminate this Palestinian scourge once and for all. Israel will never again be united on the direction it needs to go. There will always be this debate. And I think right now, because of the pressure being placed on Israel from around the world, there will be a discussion that leads to the creation of a Palestinian state. And as soon as you have that happen, some important changes have to take place inside of Israel, some of which Israel will never recover from. And one of these is the disenfranchisement of these Brooklyn Jews, I call them, these American Jews who have flown over to Israel to steal land in the West Bank, to murder Palestinians. to create these illegal settlements. These settlements will have to be dismantled. This will cause huge domestic problems, maybe even take Israel up to the brink of civil war. And basically, all of these factors are creating in Israel that is not a safe place to live, is not a good place to live, not a good place to raise children. And I think you're going to see millions of Israelis who have dual citizenship flee Israel. And now you have a demographic problem. Right now, 9 million Jews, roughly a little bit more than that in terms of non-Jews, Arabs, Muslims, and Christians. But when you start dropping that population, when the number of Jews starts dropping down to 7 million, to 6 million, to 5 million, suddenly Israel stops being viable in terms of its current makeup. And, the concept of a two-state solution yields to the reality of a single-state solution. And I think that's the direction that we're headed. And I don't think there's anything Israel can do to stop this. Now, the question is, does Israel want to do this in a way that minimizes damage to whatever Jewish entity remains in the Holy Land, or do they want to do something that leads to the total destruction of Israel? Israel can't survive if this war continues. You've had repeated Israeli generals, retired, say that in a year's time Israel will collapse on its own volition because it can't continue this fight. So eventually, Hamas will not be defeated. I mean, we have another Israeli general that has admitted that Hamas is not just a physical entity, but it's a political point of view. It's an ideology, and you can't defeat that militarily. In fact, the more Israel commits genocide, the stronger Hamas gets from an ideological standpoint. So the reality is, Israel is going to have to deal with Gaza on the terms set by the Gazans, and right now the leadership of the Gazans is Hamas. There are things being done to try and make such a dialogue possible, which is, for instance, China brought together 14 different Palestinian factions to create some sort of singularity that's inclusive of Hamas and Fatah, so that when Israel is ready for meaningful discussions, that which sits across from it isn't going to be called Hamas. And that might be a political compromise that has to be made in order to get not only Israel to the table, but to get Fatah, the Palestinian, the PLA, Palestinian Authority, Palestinian Liberation Organization, get them to the table as well, because there are factions within the Palestinian community that are not supportive of Hamas, that are deeply resentful of Hamas and would not participate in any, large-scale discussions or dialogue, with Hamas representing them all. So what China did, and again, Russia played an important role in helping facilitate this. China is at least moving in the direction of creating a governance entity that Hamas factors in, but it's not called Hamas. And at some point in time, Israel will have no choice but to sit down at a table across from them. Will be sitting somebody from this entity. That's the only way this ends. This doesn't end in an Israeli victory. That's for sure.
What makes the fall of Israel unique is its comprehensive scope. It covers Israel's political, economic, social, and military changes, the shifts in the Palestinian struggle for sovereignty, Israel's degradation into apartheid rule, the attendant atrocities, the regional and global reverberations, and the human and economic costs, both prior and subsequent, to Israel's fatal war on Gaza. Its nightmarish actions have led to the engagement of the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court, renewed international boycotts, and massive domestic and international protests.
Through wholesale saniticide, Israel has ensured that ultimate death, rather than functional disability, follows injury and trauma. Saniticide is also in itself, along with domicide, ecocide, and scholasticide, a product of genocidal annihilation. By these means, and the physical obliteration of Gaza's social and economic infrastructure, Israel has attempted to destroy the Gazan national identity in whole. The prospect of ever rebuilding Gaza for Palestinians has been drastically undermined by what many have described as Israel's orchestrated ecocide of the Gaza Strip. Olive groves and farms have been reduced to packed earth, soil and groundwater have been contaminated by munitions and toxins, the sea is choked with sewage and waste, the air polluted by smoke and particulate matter. This destruction and disablement has been conducted as a transnational effort. Without the material and ideological support of the West's major powers for Israel's settler colonial ambitions, this genocide could not have taken the form it has. Israel's armaments, weapons technologies, impunity, and hubris have all been endorsed and underwritten by the United States, Germany, France, the United Kingdom and others, all of whom bear culpability.